Hi, good morning. I am going to talk about the Understanding by Design lesson that I created, or, the beginning stage one. Um, First of all, I just want to highlight on page 38, knowledge versus understanding. Knowledge is simply just the facts of understanding of something, where understanding is the meaning of the facts and much more deeper. And I've always tried to stress this to my teachers, especially the ones when they're working with students with disabilities, with learning disabilities. A lot of times they get the whole picture, but they don't really get they have difficulty with breaking down and memorizing facts and basic things, but they understand the whole picture. And that's what we want. That's what we want. It's more important, because really when you memorize things, you usually tend to forget it unless it's really cemented in there for forever, like multiplication tables. I do think there are things you do have to memorize in life, but to understand the reason behind it is so important. Okay, so the lesson I chose was the TEAC 110.6b. It's on the new standards that are coming out. They were released in 2017, but they will be actually put into action next school year. And the student will be able to explain figurative language such as simile, metaphor, and personification that the poet uses to create images. So that is my established goal right there, the TEAC. That's what I want the kids to do. So some essential it's early this morning. Essential questions that I would want them to think about are: why do writers use figurative language? So what's the purpose behind it? And how does the use of figurative language impact a reader and the purpose of a poem? So really thinking also about the author's purpose, but also then how it impacts you as a reader. So what's the meaning behind the author's reasoning, but then also on the flip side, how it helps develop a reader to understand the poem better. Okay, so desired understanding. Students will understand that the use of figurative language are powerful because of the mental images which can be created through their use. So using figurative language helps them to be able to create mental images, to be able to really place themselves in that poem and to really understand it. So students will be able to identify the meaning of simile, metaphor, and personification, so figurative language. So they're going to be able to say what those are, the meaning of them. So that's kind of just that knowledge level. But then identify examples of figurative language in poems, so be able to also find them. So they're applying what they know, the knowledge that they know. Explain the purpose of the figurative language. So really be able to explain why the author chose to use those different types of figurative language, and then create their own examples of figurative language, I think is important too. So going up to that really higher on Bloom's of create. So creating their own use of that. So that would be my UBD lesson. And again, I just stress the importance of getting kids to understand versus just memorize. And that's kind of how I look at it. It's really knowing it and knowing it in your soul versus just being able to memorize. Trying to think of a good, and one example is spelling test. I hate spelling tests. I think they're silly. They memorize words. They're given 10 words to memorize, and by the end of the week, they are to have those words memorized and be able to spell those words. 10 words. 10 words. What's that going to do in their life? What is better is for them to learn the rule and then be able to apply that rule to several different words. And who knows what words. That is more meaningful. Again, so they're understanding the reason behind it and then being able to apply it. In science, a lot of times science teachers just like to give kids vocabulary to copy off the board. Here's the word and here's the meaning. Well, let's go deeper than that. Let's have the kids put that word into their own words, drawing pictures, coming up with videos, just keep going on Google and doing searches of those words, and then finding the images that reflect those words is so much more powerful as a learner, in my opinion. And it's going to stick a little deeper if it's theirs versus what the teacher gives them. So that's all I've got. Happy Sunday.